Hey everyone, and welcome to our Wednesday afternoon yoga class. This week, our themes are kind of all built around some areas of growth, and today we're going to specifically be focusing on how do we open up to allow change? How do we recognize where we are? So today's class is going to very much be about trying to recognize where we kind of habitually hold tension and to see if it's possible that we can use our yoga poses and our yoga breathing or yoga focus to kind of start addressing some of that deep underlying tension. And we can't really go anywhere if our luggage is really overstuffed, right? So we're going to try to release a little bit of the luggage so we can have a bit more of an effective journey. So I had to move my mat and I make a suggestion for an opening posture. And you can take this and modify it at home so that you can use the supplies that you have. So I'm gonna use a couple blankets, and you can also do this with a couple blocks. So you see, I folded my blanket up, and maybe you have a small pillow about this size, just kind of kicking around in your room. But I folded one blanket about like this, and I'm going to place it here. Um, and yeah, and I'm going to need another blanket for underneath my head, but I'm not going to fold this one as thick. But you kind of might want the same as the first one, but it's up to you. And then that's for underneath my head. And then I have a little yoga bolster at home. So I thought that here, this is going to be for my legs. And you may want to just, if you have like long cushions, almost bolsters on your couch, or if you have a couple pillows from your bed that you can grab. And let me show you what this looks like. And then you can say, yep, that looks fun, or no, that doesn't look very much fun for me. I'm going to take a good old fashioned um, just sit here. And so this pillow is underneath the legs and it's for your legs to kind of go into a cobbler's pose sort of thing. And the blanket folded here or the blanket or block you have here is where you draw the line on your back. So right in the middle of your thoracic spine. And then this other blanket is underneath the head. And now I'm here and I'm like, no, do I want extra foldable there? Because I don't want to throw my head back too far. So I've given a little lift underneath the middle of my back. My legs are lifted and then just an open position. Your arms can be at the sides or hands resting on your belly, whatever feels more comfortable for you. And now, if you look at this and you think that doesn't look comfortable at all, then please feel free to modify and use some other form of comfortable reclined position, like a constructed rest. We do that a lot around here. So let's get settled and let's prepare to try to soften the areas of the body that may be armoring against the practice today. And if you notice, especially that the cushion underneath the middle of your back feels like it's a dramatic stretch, let's get rid of it and do something that's less dramatic because I really don't want to take your body into a place that's really unfamiliar and just kind of creating a lot of sensation right now. So, in other words, I'd like this to be a bit boring. So, I wish I could be there with you in person to help sort this all out, but I'll have to ask you to just do a little bit of a heavy lifting. And then once you have yourself settled, you might decide to close your eyes and breathe softly in and out through the nose and just begin to notice how it feels to arrange your body over these blankets and pillows. I'll give you a little bit of that time to just adjust yourself. Just take a few more minutes. Make sure that you're really in a comfortable reclined position. The soles of your feet can be touching if that isn't too much pressure. Your eyes can either be closed or just have a soft gaze to them, relaxing the tension in your forehead, in your jaw, even your tongue. Very good. I just want you to start to pay attention to the parts of you that may be having some trouble settling, that are just having trouble kind of being still. And if you have any parts that are resisting this kind of restorative start that we're starting in this class, we're not going to stay here a long time. Like I said, I want it to just to be set up in kind of a boring way, just nothing really dramatic to it. And then as you scan over the parts of your body, and might be more of a thought or an emotion, that feeling restless or resistance to this, anything like that, it's wonderful. Um, as you scan over all these different sensations, physical, mental, or emotional, can you choose one thing that's just feeling a bit restless, one part of you that's resistant to this right now? Maybe an area perhaps where you might have an injury or just a history of injury. And this part of your body is always kind of nervous when you start something new. So just choosing one area of tension, and let's say that just this one part of your body will be kind of the star of the show today. And even though it's part of your body, you're not maybe getting along with it very well right now, or it's the thought or feeling that you kind of wish you didn't have. And let's just pick up on it today and just kind of use that as our focal point. So for just 3 breaths, could you please focus on this difficult or uncomfortable area as best as you can? 100% of your focus on just the area that's restless or resistant, trying to notice the quality of the sensation, how intense it is or not intense, and just trying to build some raw data on this sensation as best we can. Scanning and listening to your body. And as I said, we won't start, we won't be in these restorative poses for very long. And of course, if you're getting a lot out of it and you're really enjoying your time here, you're at home, you can do whatever you want. But please just gently roll over to your side and remove most of your props and come back onto your back into a constructed rest, just laying there. And if you started there, you're already where you need to be. And come back over onto your back in a constructed rest. You might notice that a number of other sensations may be present at this point because you had all these pillows and blankets under you. But I'd like to come back to the one sensation you choose to focus on for this class today. And if there's a physical part of your body that you feel this restlessness or resistance, could you maybe take one or both of your hands there? Is that at all possible to do that today? And then just let your hand rest there. And if this position, lying on your back, doesn't make sense, like you can't touch that part of your body or that part of your body smushed into the floor, and you'd like to have more freedom in that part of body, sit up, roll over. Do whatever you need to do so that it's more natural for you to touch that part of your body that was resistant or expressing the discomfort of the sensation. And just begin to connect your breath with that part of your body. And by that, I mean, as you inhale and exhale, there's some natural movements in your body. You don't have to force that, they just happen. So could you, with your hands on this part of your body, notice any any movement that happens as you breathe? If any, and wash your breath into that area of your body. So I know air stays in your lungs when you breathe in and out, but there are these other residual movements, these waves, these echoes of breath movement in all parts of the body. And I just want you to focus on that today, just sending the breath to a part of the body that maybe is a little tense or it's uncomfortable. And so that area that you want to focus on today, the area that was tense or uncomfortable or was expressing some difficulty, some emotion or thought, hold your hands there if you can, just for a few more breaths, and see if you can make that kind of mental connection to that part of your body and ride the waves of breath movement there. And if you can, let's let this space, these sensations that you're experiencing right now, be kind of your emotional signature for this practice today. So this is where we'll come back to time and time again to see how the practice is working or not working, or what the effect might be when you're ready. If you're in a constructed rest, could you please roll over to your side and press up from the floor and just join us all in a seated position. So you may find it useful to hang on to one of those blankets and have it folded a few times so that it supports your seat. See what's going on here as we stick our legs up front, that we're going to come in through a very gentle awakening of the body. And just come up into a seat, either on the blanket, on the bolster, on a block, or just on your mat. And we're just going to take a few more moments here. And what we're hoping to do is we're hoping to kind of recognize our relationship to not only our physical body, but how we feel and think about our physical body. So wherever you are focusing earlier, if you could, come back to the purpose now, and to that purpose, and focus our awareness back down onto our feet. And as you inhale, fan the toes out. And as you exhale, gently gather them into like the balls of the foot. So spreading and contracting to the toes. One more time. And then the next time you inhale, just point the toes away from you. And as you exhale, flex the toes. And we're going to do that for a couple of breaths. So the focus is on coming into the toes for right now. And now we're going to shift our focus into the ankles. And then I find it helpful to place my fist in between my knees. And as you inhale, the soles of the feet will face towards each other. And as you exhale, rotate it so the soles of the feet face away from each other. So just a kind of couple of breaths like that. And placing your hand here in between the knees, I kind of stabilize the shin bones that way. And so this movement, it's a little bit more focused on the ankles. And as you inhale now, circle the ankles in one direction. And as we exhale, take the circle in the other direction. So just kind of really getting into the ankle joints for this one. And last breath. And then let's do the same thing, but with our hands. So when you're ready, inhale and spread the fingers wide. Exhale, gentle. Couple more breaths like that, with that feeling. And each one of your fingers and thumbs moving to their full range of motion, and then holding your hands like you're holding a platter in front of you. As you inhale, pull your thumbs towards each other. And as you exhale, pull all your fingertips towards each other. So you still have your palms facing up, but you're circling your hands underneath that imaginary platter. And just one more breath in, and one more breath out. And let's bring the hands to a light prayer sort of position, hands to heart center. And as you inhale, roll the backs of the palms. And as you exhale, reverse the directions. So this is a bit like a Hollywood move, going back and forth with the breath. One more breath. And then let's make our way up to a standing position. And you may want to have a chair close by, just in case balance is a little challenging for you, or you could move closer to a wall. So this is where I would have the chair if you were going to use a chair. So we do a little bit of work in the back of the legs, and we're just going to continue to awaken the joints there. And so again, you may wish to hold onto the chair for some balance. And when you're ready, we're going to take an inhale here. And as you exhale, bend the knee and inhale. And then come back to mountain pose. Just do that. 2 more breaths. It's a pretty simple movement, but the challenge is to keep that mountain pose alignment even though you're moving the leg. Good. And then again, the chair is here if you need it. As you inhale, point the knee out to the side. And as you exhale, point the knee across the center of the body. Inhale and exhale. Now you can hang on to the chair. Try to keep your hips steady, facing forward, while just the leg is perfect. Let's come back to the mountain pose, and let's finish with this leg. And then we can move the chair over to the other side if that's what you're using today. I had turned sideways to show this movement, but know that you can stay exactly where you are and just turn sideways, and you can see it a bit better. So standing tall as you inhale, take the leg forward, and as you exhale, take the leg back. And notice my body staying upright from the hip joint to the crown of the head. I'm just moving the leg. Good. And after you've done a few like that, let's take an inhale and the leg out to the side. Great. Exhale, legs together. And again, you can hang on to the chair for some balance. And notice I'm not tipping my body to the side. I'm staying upright. Just the leg is moving. And then let that go. Then you're going to stand in your mountain pose. You can move the chair to the other side, or if you're using a wall, just turn around to face the other way. And we're going to start with some knee movements. So inhale, and you don't need to use the chair, but just know it is always there in case you just need to use it at all, in case it's just one of those days. And then we'll move into some hip movements. So inhale and exhale, hands on the hips, if you like, and if you have that available to you. So then you can make sure your hips aren't wobbling all over the place, that it's just the leg that's moving. And this can be pretty humbling. And then move to inhale the leg forward, exhale, pull back, nice and strong and tall, like mountain pose, except one leg is moving. So the range of motion that might not be as large as you might have planned. Great job. And then inhale the last movement here from the hips. You just have one more breath. And we'll come back to mountain pose. Now, if you're finding that your legs are tired, if you've done a big hike today, or if you're just not feeling 100% and you want to sit down for the next part on your chair, just know that that's completely fine. I'm going to turn sideways just so it shows better. But you're fine from where you are in mountain pose. And you just move it to the side there, but you can inhale and draw the arms and then exhale and lift. And take your time as you move your arms, trying to make sure that the movement you're creating isn't causing any clicking, any clunking, any kind of pain. You want to move in a comfortable range of motion. And and then apologize for turning backwards for 1 second, but I just want to really emphasize the movement in the area where you have the block or the blanket or pillow earlier, that mid thoracic spine. So as you inhale, you draw the shoulder blades down and together. And as you exhale, you spread the shoulder blades apart. So it's not a shoulder blade movement here that we're focused on, not the arms, but more of the shoulder blade area, the upper back. And just making that movement with the shoulder blades. Great. And then perfect. And then on your next inhale, let's just take a stand here and exhale, and then turn the hands under. If you need to keep the elbows a little closer into your body, that can make this a bit more accessible, or you can just do one arm at a time. But let your arms rest at your sides. So we've gone through kind of a simple wake up for the legs, to the hips, the hands, to the shoulders, just to kind of revisit with the body now here in mountain pose. And if you prefer to use the seated mountain pose here, that works really well. But can you go back to the area of your body you were working on at the very beginning? The area that was resistant to relaxing, that maybe had some of that discomfort. And just remember that this can be associated with a thought or an emotion that's just you having a little bit of trouble processing or working with right now. But take your hands onto the body in that area. So wherever that is for you. And if it's not accessible to touch the ground, touch the area of the body from standing, use a chair, or you can just go right back to sitting down on the ground in an easy seat like we were before, if that's better. Just try to relax as much as you can. Let yourself be aware of the area of tension and use the same technique that we did at the very beginning, where you wash the area basically with your breath. So you're moving your breath into the place for your hand, where your hands are resting, and just observe any movement of breath that you can possibly direct to that area. And just try to be as open-minded as possible as you come into this, trying to just be collecting that raw data about your experience rather than having a lot of stories about what's going on, okay? And we can release that and maybe take your feet a little wider apart in mountain pose, whatever makes this most accessible and most comfortable for you. But I like to remind you to keep softness in your knees and your hip joints so that we don't lock the flow of energy in any one place. And all I'm going to do from here is I'm going to take you into some side bending from here. And it will move dynamically initially, and then we'll kind of hold the pose. And if you find holding your arms up over your head uncomfortable, maybe you can work with your hands on your hips. It might be more comfortable, and it might even allow you to get the benefit of it today. So modify in this, and if what I'm showing doesn't work for your body today. So initially, let's inhale and take the arms up. They can touch or be apart. Exhale and flow to one side. Then inhale, come back up to center, and then exhale, flow to the other side. So it's a pretty simple movement. You've done this half moon pose probably lots of times. So let's do this dynamically each side, maybe 3 breaths per side. And I really like to include these kind of movements in a class where we're working on letting go or moving along our path, because the side body is where we can hold a lot of resistance. So let's go back to that first side and consider holding this. So I'm going to drop this bottom arm just so that my shoulder gets a little rest, and just reach with one arm. And I'm going to let this ear rest towards the shoulder as much as possible. So there's not a lot of strain on the neck, just a nice gentle release with the neck pressed equally down through both of your feet. And again, just a gentle reminder to keep the knees and the hips a little bit soft. Open the space between the hip bone and this armpit. So we're really focusing on opening the top along here with this. Our a heavy leg, it's holding your heaviest purse, and just one more breath in and out. And then we're going to be special as we come back up. So leave your body in this shape and just release your arm to the side. And as you exhale, use this hand to support your head, not to push, but to support your head as you come back up. So there's really a lot of softness in the neck as you come back up. Great. Now take a pause before we go to the other side, because we're going to do the other side, and just notice the kinds of energy that might be moving through this side of the body. Now, if your particular area is on this side of the body, you might quickly take your hand there and just wash that area again with the breath. And now if this is not the side, then you don't have to do that on your this side. Then on your next inhale, let's lift up the other arm and go into the stretch on the other side. So just a gentle reminder, the ankle joints, knee joints, and hip joints are soft as you can make them while you're still weight bearing. And then just sink towards the shoulder. And I just don't want to resist the stretch. So both feet are equally pressed into the ground in their space between the hip bone and this armpit. There's lots of length. And just take a couple of breaths on your own. Good job. And then you can inhale and release this top arm and just support your head with your hand. And then exhale, bring it up, nice, soft, supported neck. And come back to your mountain pose. If there's a place in your body on this side that you're working with today, this is a real focal point today. And maybe place hands and wash that area with the breath. Maybe take your hands now to the rib cage. And we're going to work on a little bit of deepening our experience of breath. So feeling the rib cage around your body and noticing when you take a breath in that maybe your hands move apart from each other a little bit, and you may naturally move into what we call in the gut as like a gut. It's a breath, which is a breath where it makes a little bit of sound and sensation in the throat. If that's part of your practice and you're comfortable with that. You can start moving towards that. But if you see, you can work on expanding the ribs, not just out to the sides, but also the back and the front. It's like an umbrella is opening on the inhales all the way around the rib cage. And just focus on that, on your ribs, on that expansion, that umbrella-like sensation for a few breaths. And now if you want, on the next exhale, you can begin to kind of exaggerate a little bit what was happening in the other parts of your torso. So on the inhale, the cage expands like an umbrella, but on the exhale, when that umbrella collapses, You can also tuck in the belly now, and you can work a little deeper into this. And this is just a suggestion. For example, if you have a hernia problem, or if you've recently had abdominal surgery, or even if you just had a big steak. But what you could do is you could take your feet a little wider apart, and maybe the toes would point out at a bit of an angle and kind of take a little bit of a bend into the knees. Again, softness in the knees, the ankles, the hips, and you can place your hands on your thighs, fingers facing in towards each other and elbows out. And you can inhale and expand that rib cage, and exhale, hug the belly muscles in, and really tap the belly button up and back. Relax the belly button, belly muscles before you try to inhale, and then inhale, expand the rib cage, and then exhale, hug the belly muscles. Then as you exhale thoroughly, and then kind of tuck in the belly button up, and let's just try that one more time. So right there and then, release the belly muscles before you stand up and come back to match the pose. And wonder if you're feeling, I know I am a lot more activity around the middle part of the body when we have parts of the body that have been giving us trouble or difficulty, motions or thoughts that have been kind of moving through, and we'd like to move them, but we don't quite know how. One thing we want to work on is strengthening the core. When our core is strong, and we're going to do a lot more of this next week, when our core is strong, we have the confidence to take those bold steps. So I'm going to come down onto my back now for a little bit of awakening some of our deep core strength. So if you want to use your blanket, as you can see underneath the spine, because I'm on a carpeted floor here. I don't need to make it as comfortable as possible, but if you are like on a hardwood floor, you might want to make it a little more comfortable. And then we can come back down onto our backs, back into that like constructed rest, and just take the position as best as possible. I would like to have my spine aligned with the earth, so that means I'm not using a lot of pillow here. I'm not using any of those other pillows under my spine that I had in the opening sequence. I'm just taking a neutral position, and I'm going to begin by noticing the alignment of the low back. And there's typically a little arch in the lower back. We call that the lumbar curve. We want to try to maintain that as much as possible. And one of the mechanisms that will allow us to really kind of be strong there is to be aware of the muscles that cross the belly from like kind of like where your seatbelt goes in the car. So you're kind of firing those muscles. Now you can place your hands on the inside, the hips, inside the upper bones, and then give a little cough or something. And you'll feel some deep muscle engagement. And I have lots of lovely, brutal love here, but underneath that, I can feel some muscle tone. So I kind of want to have that sense that I'm drawing this upper bone closer to the other, and then like the seatbelt kind of engaging or supporting across my lower belly. So kind of see if you can imagine the two upper bones coming closer together, and that'll engage those seatbelt muscles. And then when you're ready, we're going to lift up one leg. And let's take an exhale here. Inhale here. Start. And notice the knee. Is it coming all the way up to my chest? And exhale. You can touch the toe down. We're just going to do that a couple more times. So we'll inhale the knee, lift it up, not too close to the body, and then exhale, the toe touches down. And I'm choosing to keep my hands on my hip bone so that it reminds me I want to have the kind of the bones coming closer together to stabilize my back as I do this. And after you got one leg kind of down pat, you can switch over to the other one. Just exhaling as the toe gently touches the floor. It's not a really big movement, but it's really helping you to remember at a core level where your strength, where your positivity, where your self-control, where your willpower all is. So just helping to remember our natural innate strength. Beautiful. Now you can keep doing that, or you can just rest. But you can keep doing that. Allow for an opportunity to add a little bit more movement. And it's really important to have the basics comfortable in your mind, though. So if you start adding all kinds of, all over the place, then you're going to lose the form and you're going to lose your connection to the core. And that's the point of doing this. It's not for a bikini body, but to help us move past these uncomfortable or resistant areas of holding. So we can, if you want, you can put your arms behind your head and incorporate that with the movement of the legs. So this is an inhale position, and this is the exhale position. And again, I'm going to suggest just moving with one leg, and it's a lot more work for the transverse abdominals or for those deep seatbelt muscles with your arms extended back over your head. So you might choose to have your arms down here because you can just control the core more. Let's switch to the other side now, and slow seatbelt muscles engaged all through the movement. And then we can really start to take a breather. So just doing this side a little bit more. Maybe you need some more time to rest in between our movements. I'm going to suggest that again, um, if you find you can't keep that neutral arch, you're feeling like your body is bouncing around, then you might want to go back to what we've done previously until you feel a little more comfortable with that stage. And so let's take one leg, lift it up as straight as you can. Take an inhale here and notice the little arching. Your lower back has not really changed. And as you exhale, lower the straight leg towards the ground. It can just touch. You're not really fully touching. And then inhale, bring it back up. And then exhale, lower it down. So again, this is a longer lever now. So it's putting more effort into the core to keep everything stable. Um, the bones migrating towards each other. And after you've done a few with one, like even go to the other leg, inhale, exhale, and just notice the slow movement you're using, how much control you're exercising of your neck and shoulders. Have nothing to do. They stay on the ground. And then last breath. There. And then we can take a break. Now, there's the option to add the arms behind the head on that if you like. So the arms could stretch back like this. It can also be a goalpost of palms if that's more comfortable. But inhale, that first leg comes back up. Then exhale, the leg lowers slowly with control. Now, having the arms behind your back, it may make you feel a lot more wobbly, or you don't like to feel like you can really stabilize through the lower back, then please bring your arms back down to your sides. Or you can even take the bent knee version of this that we started with in the beginning. And then when you're ready, we'll move to the other leg. Inhaling, straight, exhaling, the leg lower. Slowly with control, maybe two or more breaths here. Excellent. Very good. Just keep going with that for a few more breaths. Excellent. And then just releasing back into that constructed rest, just to process all that we're going through here, all that's happening to us today. Another thing we could try, we just want to make sure that we're keeping the front ribs kind of grounded. We're not letting them pop up too much. And then we're really working on that engagement of these lower muscles, the transverse abdominals. So when you're ready, you can lift one knee up and make sure that the knee doesn't come too close to your body. Um, Take the opposite hand and place it on the front of the thigh. And this is an isometric exercise. So there's not so much action to look at, but I think you might feel it in this area of core that we're talking about today. So inhale here, and then exhale, press your hand against your thigh. See if you can feel those muscles activate. Inhale, relax. Exhale, and press. Just keep that up. So the muscle gets outside your thigh against the hand against the thigh muscle. Inhale, relax. And let's do that one more time. And really take a breath between sides. And then let's go to the other side. So the knee stays pretty close over the heart, but doesn't come too close. And do take your hand to the opposite side, and on the exhale, press the hand into the thigh into the hand. Inhale, release, and two more breaths like that. Now, as we come back into constructed rest, can you take your awareness back to that original place where you felt the holding, you felt the resistance, you felt that discomfort, and welcome your again to take your hands there if you can, and if you can reach it easily from this position. And let's just take a notice on how our opinions are, how our experience of that place is either exactly the same, or maybe it's shifted or changed at all. And so this is a really important thing to pay attention to, because a lot of times we feel like our stress and our tension and our pain comes from somewhere out there, somewhere that person back there makes it happen. But here we're discovering on our own that in our yoga class that we have the tools, we have the ability to start to shift the effects of that. So that's a really important thing to remember, that our suffering is what we hold on to, the baggage that we have packed all with. And without that stuff, we have the option of unpacking some of that. And this is how we can do it. And I'd like to do just one more thing from supine before we move into some other work. And if we can begin that by bringing the feet into a little bit more careful alignment, so that they're in like a mountain pose position on the ground. And we're going to do some rolling in like a bridge pose. And let's start with some small movements, and then maybe we'll build on and make them feel a little bit larger. So at first, I want you to just look at the lower spine for bridge pose. So as you exhale, you'll turn the sacrum down towards the ground, and you'll lengthen the sitting bones to the heels. So your back will be flat now. And as you inhale, allow your back to lift a little bit from the floor. So it's just like a pelvic tilt at first. And let's do 3 breaths, maybe like that. And just making sure you're moving your back in a range of motion that it's not exacerbating any discomfort for you. And if that's going okay, go ahead. Do the exhale, lengthen the sacrum down to the floor, and then on the inhale, push up a little bit. Don't do the back arch, and then exhale, lower down. Inhale to a neutral spine on the ground. Then you can exhale, pelvic tilt. Inhale, push the hips up just for a few inches, and exhale, lower down. And now we're going to start maybe pushing up a little bit more and taking a little bit more time with the lowering down. So you're starting to really feel a lot of the whole articulation in the lower back. So the inhale is to rest, the exhale is to tuck the pelvis, and the inhale is to push up, keeping the pelvis in that tucked position. Keep it tucked as you slowly roll down vertebrae by vertebrae. And you can keep working like that just with the lower spine. That would be wonderful. Or you can start lifting up your arms in relationship to add a little bit more, just like we did with some of those other core exercises. So if you want to, we can do a couple of those together. So I'm here back on the floor for my inhale, exhale. So we're going to exhale, pelvic tilt. Inhale, arms up. And exhale, lower down slowly. Inhale to relax. Exhale, pelvic tilt. Inhale, lift high up onto the shoulder blades as you feel comfortable. And then exhale, lower down, nice and slow, just articulating vertebrae by vertebrae, more and more like that. Excellent job. Just do that one more time on your own with your inhales and exhales. making sure to really articulate on the way down. Great job. And now let's just rest in our constructed rest position for a few breaths. So when you're ready, you can roll over onto your side and we'll make our way into like a tabletop position. And just know that the chair is an option so that you don't have to wait there on your knees. Just briefly demonstrate that option. I'm going to demonstrate that option. And then you can come back to it with some other poses. So this could be a really nice choice today instead of the tabletop pose today. So we're coming into the tabletop pose and you're probably going to think that your camera has frozen or your computer's frozen because it won't look like I'm doing anything. So we're moving at some very, very subtle levels today. It's an intensive class today. So I want to go through my spine with my awareness first from the tailbone right up to the crown of the head. And I'm going to ask my spine, what are you feeling? Tense? Where do I not even feel the spine? Maybe where? I don't have a lot of understanding of it, and I'm going to do a cat-cow type motion with just that part of the spine. So for me, it's always the neck, the top of the thoracic spine into the neck. That's always my area. But right now, it's giving me a lot of trouble these days, so I'm moving just from there. And it's going to look like nothing's going on, but you might have a different area of the spine that you're going to work with. So on the inhale, I'm just going to let that part of my spine extend gently. And on the exhale, I'm going to flex that part of my spine very gently. So for me, I'm working at my tender area along the spine. You might have an area somewhere different, but you can push your hands actively into the chair or into the floor if you're using the floor. And if you have support under one shoulder because you can't weight there on that, for whatever reason, press down through the shoulder equally to how much you're pressing down through the other arm. And then just gradually raise the movement a little bit deeper from that place that you identified as either stiff or numb or not familiar or not very mobile. And then gradually let the whole thing, kind of turn into a wave-like motion that we use typically in cat-cow, with the exhale flexing the spine and the inhale, just let yourself have as much movement as you like through the spine, right from the tailbone to the crown of the head. And again, you can definitely do this from a chair, just articulating the spine. I'll just do that for a few more breaths. And so this whole area you're kind of looked at a second ago. Let every segment of it move as much as you can. And then a couple of options. One would be to widen out the knees and push the hips back to come into an extended child's pose. Some of you may really appreciate a downward facing dog at this moment. And just remember, you can always use a chair to modify a down dog so that you don't have to have your hands right on the ground. It doesn't take near as much weight on the wrist that way. So this would be a wonderful option if your wrist or shoulders are a bit sore. So I'm going to today work on my modified child's pose, but if you'd rather, you can even just come to a seated position for this part. Just take a moment to push the sitting bones back towards the heel of whatever pose you've chosen, to take the sitting bones back towards the heels. Keep the knees nice and soft. Take a few deep breaths. And then when you're ready, coming from your child's pose or your down dog into a tabletop position or back to the chair, maybe you didn't even leave the chair. You could still be using the chair. That works perfectly fine. But we're just going to take a few seated moments for a second. Directing that breath to those areas of the body. Just a few more breaths. And so now we're going to take the right foot and step forward into a lunge position. So your hands could be on the chair. You can have blocks for your hands, or your hands can come up to your right thigh. And I just want you to take a moment to think about the back leg. So whether your knee is on the ground like mine or you're doing a higher version of a lunge, it really doesn't matter. I just want you to make sure that you feel this back glute area, which is the left seat, that make sure it's engaged and you feel some structure to the muscle in the left glute. And when you're ready, we're going to see about lifting that arm. And if you need to keep one hand on your support, either the block or the chair, that's fine. See if it's possible to lift your arms, let them open wide enough that a part of your shoulders don't feel strained. And holding your arms up, soften the fingers, soften the wrist, soften the elbows, soften the shoulders. Let the shoulder blades come down your back. Keep the front ribs kind of knitted together, pulled together, like we did in some of the other core work that we had. And so you have engagement to the core, and then please just direct your mental awareness to that place, the area of difficulty, maybe a thought, an emotion, somewhere in your physical body where you felt that resistance, and just see if you can wash that area again with your breath. And then just take 2 more breaths, and we'll move back into our downward facing dog or your alternatives, whatever you've chosen, and just let it all go. We're just going to be in this pose for a couple breaths, no real agenda. Just directing that wave breath. Excellent job. And then when you're ready, let's just all return to a tabletop position or the chair, either using the chair or the knees on the ground. And then we're going to bring the left foot forward and just even out, work on the other side now. So whatever version you did on your first side, it might be nice to kind of keep it nice and symmetrical. You can keep your same version on this side, engaging that right glute muscle. So there's some structure there. It's not all let go. There's a sense of the ribs knitting together, of integrating the top and lower sides of your body. And then if it's possible to lift your arms, if you need to keep a hand or both hands on your props, please know that that is fine too. And just move into this energetically, so to speak. And then when you're holding this posture, return your mental awareness to the placing of your body where you were feeling resistance at the beginning of this class. I want to work with this today. I'm going to be brave, and I'm going to ask questions, and I'm going to keep coming back to this, and I'm going to move some of the tension if I can. And so let that part of your body drink from the breath. Let that part of your body drink from that, your lovely, soft, nourishing, deep, full, brave breath. And then take your version of down dog or seat or chair, whatever posture that you've been using through these breaks. It's perfect. We're going to hold that for a couple breaths, just letting go of everything. And I'll stay quiet here as you listen to your breath. Perfect. And now let's make our way into our mountain pose. So from whatever way makes sense for you to get there is fine. And you're just going to come near into your mountain pose. And I'm going to demonstrate this posture, this pose using a chair. And then we can look at other options like using a block. But I'll start with using a chair. So you'll have mountain pose near the front of your mat. And we're going to take the left leg and step the left leg back. So initially we're in a very high lunge position. And your hands can be on the chair if you need that help to balance. So notice that it's not really a stretched out lunge. It's a pretty modest lunge. And I have my left foot off to the left side of my mat, and I'm keeping my hips square forward. I'm going to see about pivoting on the ball of the foot so that my whole foot is now on the floor back there again. So there's a nice See, there's engagement in the left glute muscle. So I want to take some time to elongate the spine so you can take your hands forward to the chair. And it works quite nicely if you're not using a chair. You might want to have a block on the inside or the outside of your right foot, just so you can really lift your arms up like this. If you're not using the chair, but for those of us who have the chair, you can make it longer, sometime almost like a cat cow with your spine. So you can really elongate the spine, push down into that left foot, down into the outer edge of the back foot, and you can track the left glute muscle, and you got your nice strong core, and then just lengthen out of the hips. Now bring the left hand to the chair or to the block if you're using it, and we'll all elongate even more on our inhale as we lift the right arm. The exhale wraps the right arm behind your back and come into a version of revolved triangle. So I've got my sacrum squared to the back of the chair or the wall in front of me, and the left seat is engaged, coming into your revolved chair. And once you're here, if you feel you have a ton more space, you can allow your right knee to maybe straighten a little bit, as long as you don't twist through the hips. Now, if you weren't using a chair, you might be looking something like this in your revolved triangle. And if you can hold this position for a couple more breaths, we're thinking of that space in your body that you want to work with today. So just take a few breaths in here. And that sensation. And then when you're ready, let's take your left hand and lift it up off the chair. Inhale and lift it all the way back up to the sky. And exhale, bring it all the way around as you step your right foot together and back into our mountain pose. So I'm going to shift my hands to where you are, just so I can still see you. But we'll try the other side. So there we go. So we'll look at the right leg. We'll take that back initially into that high lunge. And we just want to make sure that our hip bones are staying square towards the chair in front of us or the wall in front of you, that you're not twisting your body in order to get into this. So I'm going to step my right foot out to the right just a little bit more. Just seems to make sense to me right now in my body. And I'm going to pivot on the ball of the foot so the whole foot comes to the floor. And you want to make sure especially that the outer edge of that back foot is well grounded and it's engaged to the right glute muscle. And pull the ribs in, pull the two sides of the hip bones closer together, and that's going to help to protect your lower back in all of this. And when you're ready, you want to really engage the spine. So lengthen the spine just like you were doing a cat-cow, and then leaving your right hand down. Your right hand down. Inhale and lift the left arm. Sorry, I've got myself. The right, yeah, left. And take it behind you and place it on the side. Grow in initially and let the chest towards the left side of your mat. So maybe it's on a block, maybe it's on the inside or outside of that foot. You can be up on the chair here. You have a bunch of different options for this. Just taking a few more breaths here. And then you might think about gradually working to straighten the left knee, as long as you don't twist your lower back. And think back into the placing your body that you've been working with, that key area today, and give that the tenderest attention you can breathe into that area of your body, as though it was the most precious thing in the world. Just that tender attention that you can offer. And there's just one more breath here, and soften that front knee if you have straightened it. And then inhale, lift up your right arm, and exhale, sweep it around, bringing the right foot forward or back into mountain pose. And then you can turn to face the side of your mat. And you notice I brought the chair in front of me. So even if you don't normally do this pose with a chair, maybe today, try it. If you don't have a chair, you can maybe use an ottoman or the edge of your couch. But I'm just going to turn sideways so you can see my back a bit better as I do this. But you're facing the long edge of your mat. Um, just move that out of the way temporarily so you can see. So you're facing your couch or a chair or something like that. Actually, my blanket would come in handy because I would like a little support on my chair. And then, there we go. And then you can take your feet fairly wide apart. Um, Bring your heels further apart than your big toes and let your knees stay soft. And inhale and kind of give us that kind of cat cow kind of back again. You'll extend the spine, exhale into a forward fold. And maybe you can bring your head to rest on the couch or on the chair, the ottoman, whatever you've got handy at home today. So we have come into a full forward fold. It's not a full forward fold, but it's like a halfway forward fold. And I'm just wondering if we can hang out here for a little while. That's why I want us to use props. And even though you might not normally use props for this, I'd like your back to be long if possible, so there's no sense of strain in the legs. And just let your face soften, let your breath be soft. Know that forward folds traditionally are used as a posture of letting go sometimes. So when you try to do this, that really deep forward fold, forward bends, there can be a lot of challenges with tight hamstrings or a history of low back pain. So we might not be able to get the release that we would have otherwise hoped to get. So using the props allows us to spend more time here and to have more space just for letting go. And when we create space, when we open up, then things are they're allowed to be released. When we're closed up, we're like wound up tops. There's no ability to release. And if you like to stay here a little bit longer, please do. I was going to suggest that we finish class today on our bellies in a crocodile pose right now. But first of all, to come out of this pose, please be very slow because we've been in this position for quite a while. So take your time. And just note that if being on your belly is something that's not going to work for you, um, take a more traditional stance. You can even use props in crocodile pose. You can fold a blanket quite thick and place it down. So it's like right underneath the hip bones. And this can allow the belly to have a lot of freedom to breathe. And then the forehead can come to rest on your hands, or you can turn the head to one side, whatever seems to be most comfortable for you. If crocodile pose isn't comfortable, you can come to an easy seat. You can come to a typical Shavasana. But if you are lying on your belly, even with the pillow or blanket under your pelvis, and if that doesn't work, take a more traditional shape. Come onto your belly or onto your back, whatever works for you now. And once again, just consider the whole body like we did when we first started today. And as you scan through your body, notice if there's areas that release quite well into this. Maybe there's areas that are resistant to releasing into this final pose. And let that all be exactly as it is. But by you going back to that original key area to see if you can once again just draw some mental awareness to that key area that was resistant to uncomfortable at the beginning of class. And we're going to use the tool of the breath here again, if we can, just washing into that area with the breath. And you remember we used our hands to help connect on that earlier. So you don't need to put your hands there now. But you can remember the sensation of having your hands touch that area of your body. And then we can think about some of the attention we paid to this area of the body through class and that we breathed into it. And we observed the moments of breath in this area of the body And we let the area of the body kind of drink from the breath. And we brought a sense of preciousness, inclusivity to the area. So now let's pay even closer attention to this area of the body. And just sensing the space immediately in front of this body, this area of your body, and sensing whatever is immediately behind this area of in your body, and sensing what's to the right side of it and to the left side. And can you play with this a bit and just move your awareness from the front of this area, that key area, to the back, from the back to the front. And can you move to the right of the area? Move to the left. Then from the left to the right. And then can you let go? Can you just let go? Focusing on the key area and just allow that part of your body to be in the overall symphony, a sensation that is present to you in this moment. With that part of your body, come into the sensation that moves all the time, that constant changing through your awareness. Just taking a couple more breaths here. And if you have more time to spend in this position, this close to the ground, please take it. You've worked really hard today, but if it's time for you to move on to your next activity, take a few deep breaths and then just gradually move your way back up to a seated position. And I'd just like to share with you before we close this week a thank you. This class is being used for my advanced yoga teacher training, audio only. And with the video, it's only ever me. They won't see you guys, everybody, and what you're doing. But thank you for being a part of this journey. It's been an experience for me, and I wouldn't have it without all of you. So I love our weekly meets, and just thank you. And the rest of your week, enjoy it, and I will hopefully see you next week. Namaste.